Welcome back to another episode of my weekly meal prep. It's Christmas week and I almost thought about giving into holiday vibes and skipping meal prep altogether. It's so tempting to let the holidays sweep you away. But then I thought to myself that just because I have 1 or 2 days off, I shouldn't let my entire week derail. At the same time, I also wanted to reward myself for having a great year and meeting most of my goals, so I made some of my childhood favorite meals to treat myself while still staying on track on my calorie deficit. First up, I needed one boiled potato for breakfast, but I didn't want to simmer a pot of boiling water just for one potato, so I boiled it in microwave. I poked a few holes in the potato with a fork and added some water in a bowl along with the potato to create steam. Then I put it in the microwave for 5 minutes. It's such an efficient way to boil potatoes. For dinner, I planned a comforting spinach dal to begin with. I rinsed the moong dal thoroughly because who needs starchy water, and set it to boil on the stove with red chili powder, turmeric, fenugreek seeds and a pinch of salt. Turmeric doesn't just add color, it has anti-inflammatory properties that are especially great for recovery after workout. Plus the fenugreek seeds help digest lentils better. I covered it and left it to simmer on medium heat while I multitask. I set the oven to preheat at 350 because I was planning to make a bunch of ingredients in there. First up, I shredded an entire block of tofu. Then I moved it into a baking sheet after spraying some oil over it. I marinated it with turmeric, cumin powder, red chili powder, salt and sprayed some more oil. After mixing all the spices in thoroughly, I roasted it in oven at 350 for 15 minutes. I also flipped it halfway through for that perfect crispy texture. For lunch, I used tofu as the main protein as well. My childhood favorite protein was actually paneer, not tofu, but to make things higher in protein and lower in fats, I used tofu instead. I wanted bold flavor, so I made achari tofu tikka. I have this homemade mix of achari spices. I will drop the recipe in the description. I roasted about 2 spoons of the spices lightly on the stove and then ground them coarsely in mortar and pestle. If you like a finer texture of spices, you can grind them in electric grinder, but grinding them like this gives them a good texture as well. Then I made the marination using about half cup of Greek yogurt, adding the roasted spices along with red chili powder, turmeric and some lemon juice. I mixed the marination thoroughly and then added the tofu pieces to it and carefully coated each tofu piece with the marination. I used my hands because whenever I try to mix tofu using spatula or tongs, I end up breaking the pieces. Once tofu pieces were fully marinated, I threaded them onto skewers, put them on a baking sheet, sprayed some oil and put the tray in the oven right next to the shredded tofu. While the oven was hot, I also put frozen okra in it for dinner. I just put the big chunks of frozen okra until they defrosted for a couple of minutes first. With oven doing its thing, I moved on to prepping breakfast. One of my favorite breakfast items growing up used to be poha. It's flattened rice, so it's basically just carbs, so I don't have it as much so often. To make it more balanced, I add veggies and tofu in it for fiber and protein now. I chopped a boiled potato and half an onion. Then I sprayed some oil in a pan and added fennel seeds, mustard seeds, cumin seeds along with some curry leaves. These are the aromatics that give poha its iconic flavor. Then I sauteed onions with a pinch of salt. Pro tip, adding salt to onion helps them caramelize faster. Followed by peas and the cube boiled potato. This one time I shared this poha recipe on TikTok and some people attacked me saying that potatoes don't belong in poha, but that's the way my mom always made it, so that's how I prefer. You can skip potatoes if you want. I seasoned them with turmeric, red chili powder and cumin powder. After a quick stir, I added rinsed poha and finally the roasted shredded tofu. I mixed everything thoroughly and then added in a squeeze of lemon juice. It came together in about 5 minutes or so. It doesn't take long to cook. I divided the poha into 4 containers and garnished with cilantro. And with that, breakfast for the week was ready. By this time, okra had defrosted, so I chopped them into smaller pieces, sprayed some oil and seasoned them with turmeric, red chili powder, mango powder, cumin powder and some cumin seeds. I gave it a good mix and then popped the tray back into the oven. I roast okra in oven because it reduces its slimy texture and gives it a slightly crispy edge. If you have ever struggled with gooey okra, this trick will change your life. By this time the achari tofu was ready as well, so I took it out and left it to cool while I started preparing salads for lunch. I started by chopping spinach and added them to the salad containers lined with paper napkin to soak any extra moisture. Then I chopped some peppers and cucumbers and added them in as well. To give a fun winter twist to my salads, I also added oranges because there's no such thing as too much vitamin C in winters. For a crisp, I added some chopped almonds. I kept them in a silicone mold inside the salad container so that the moisture from the veggies doesn't make them soggy. Speaking of winters, I only find fresh cranberries in grocery stores during peak winter season, so I got a big bag of it. I prefer fresh cranberries over dried ones because of their tart flavor that's not overly sweet like dried ones. I made a dressing out of it by mixing a cup of berries with jalapeño, a touch of maple syrup, some salt and pepper. This dressing is a perfect balance of sweet, sour, spice and everything nice. I stored the dressing and tofu separately from the salads. During the week I will lightly toast almonds and heat up tofu tikka and mix it all together for a perfect comforting lunch. While I was chopping spinach for salads, I set some aside for the dal. It had been simmering all along and became the perfect texture by now. I added a generous handful of chopped spinach to it. It wilted into the dal beautifully, adding both flavor and nutrients. It's a beautiful way to pack in those greens. I poured the dal into a glass container and garnished it with cilantro. During the week, if I feel like it, I will make a fresh tadka to add to the dal. Now to turn my roasted okra into masala bhindi, all I needed to do was make a masala. Chopped half an onion and 2 tomatoes. I started by sautéing cumin seeds in a pan and added onions and tomatoes with spices like cumin powder, coriander powder, turmeric, red chili powder and some more mango powder. While the masala was roasting and I was waiting for the water from tomatoes to evaporate, I made dough for rotis in the meantime. I just mixed 1 cup of whole wheat flour with half cup of lukewarm water. Kneading dough can be oddly therapeutic. It's like a mini arm workout. Once it came together, I rolled it into a small container and sprayed some oil over it to keep it from getting dry. I stored it in the fridge as is so I can make fresh rotis throughout the week. Once the masala for bhindi was fragrant, I added the roasted okra and mixed it all together. I added fresh cilantro for a final touch, and with that my dinner was ready too. For the dinner, dal is not enough protein for me, so I will also pair the dinner with Greek yogurt. This is how my final dinner plate looked throughout the week. And with that, all my meal prep for the week was done. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon for more meal prep inspiration.